there, my name's Claire and this is TShirt Sew. Thank you so much for joining me for episode 11 of Friday Sews. If you're a new viewer today, welcome, and if you are a returning watcher or subscriber, thank you so much for coming back again today. If you do like today's video, don't forget to give me a like, and if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. I'm getting quite close now to that 1,000 subscriber mile mark, so if you haven't subscribed, I'd really love it if you would subscribe, and then you'll hit that notification bell and you'll get notified of any future videos from me. Thank you very much. Friday Sews was created by the lovely Jen from Today and Jen's Sewing Room, and it's just a great way to bring the sewing community together and bring all different vloggers together who are all talking about a little bit of sewing and a little bit of life. So that's what I'm up to today, so if that interests you, please stick around with me today. So I haven't actually done a Friday Sews video for a couple of weeks, but I have put out a few other videos that you might want to catch up on if you haven't already done so. The first video was a collaboration that I did with the lovely Adele from Sew for Serenity, and we sewed up the same pattern, but obviously different fabrics and different versions of that same pattern. So it was the Selkie Patterns Celeste dress and blouse, and we both produced a video, so I'll link those in the description notes below, and I'll also try and put a card in for those, and I'll pop a picture in of the dress that I made for that one as well. Now the second video that I brought out was a video to do with my Tilly and the Buttons Lotta and Bettine dresses, and I entitled it When Lotta Met Bettine, and the idea is that I showed a number of my different dresses, but also a hack that I did of the two dresses. I'll pop a picture in of that dress, and I'll pop a card in so that you can go and see that video if you do wish to. It's got all the details of the different changes I made to combine the two patterns, which might be of interest to you. The next video that I did was my Sew Frugal 22 ideas and inspiration video. As you'll know, this has been a huge challenge that has been taking the sewing community by storm, and I was one of the 70+ vloggers that were producing videos for inspiration for people. So I did my video, and that went out on the 25th of March. And I'll talk a little bit more about my Sew Frugal makes a little bit later on in the video, so stay tuned for that. The next video that I put out was the Sew Yellow for Endo reveal video, and that was just a very short video detailing my item that I made for that particular challenge. And my most recent video that has gone out was a fabric haul video, and again I will link all of the information to that particular video in the description, and I'll try and link a card in there as well. So since I last caught up with you for Friday Sews, I feel like I've done quite a lot of sewing. Most of them have been in relation to the challenges and the things that I've already talked about. But what I really wanted to talk to you about today was my reveal for the Sew Frugal 22 challenge. Now, as you know, this has been a massive challenge in the sewing community. It's been run by the lovely Ruan and Sam. Ruan is the Yorkshire Sew Girl and Sam is Frugalissima. They ran a similar challenge last year. The idea was to sew up a free pattern and use fabric in your stash. The idea last year was to sew up a dress, and it was called Frugal Frocks last year. This year they've opened it up a bit more. The idea that was you were to sew a free pattern, something that was widely available online, or something you could self-draft, or something along those sort of lines, and use fabric from your stash, sew it up in the month of March, and then post it on the 31st of March. So my photos went up yesterday. I'm actually recording this on the Wednesday the 30th of March, but obviously when this comes out it will be the 1st of April. So I posted my makes yesterday. I made 3 items for Sew Frugal 22 in the end, and I thought I'd run through those items with you today. Now the first item that I made was this top that I've got on here. This is the Paddington top by Peppermint magazine. Now this has been a super popular pattern. in the sewing community, and it was one that I've been wanting to sew for a number of months now. I've had the paper pattern cut out and hung up by my sewing table for ages, literally months, and for one reason or another I just hadn't got round to doing it. Well, this challenge gave me the emphasis to get on and sew it up, and I had this particular fabric in my stash. This is a viscose fabric. As you can see, it's got like an animal print design on it. It's a gorgeous fabric. I bought it from a D-stash a few months ago, but I believe that it may have come from a Sew Hayley Jade box. I think I saw it on one of their people's videos when they show what has come in their box. It's been a lovely viscose to sew with. It's not too slippery, which has been really nice. Now, the Peppermint magazine pattern, the Paddington top, really great pattern, great size range, and I'll pop some details up on the screen of that, and really good, clear, concise instructions. Fantastic for a free pattern, and I really enjoyed sewing this one up. I sewed it up over a few nights. Basically, I tend to do my sewing in the evenings when my kids are in bed, and I didn't find that I struggled with any of it apart from one small section. So I turned to the lovely Michelle from Sewing Bunny's sew along video, and I'd seen this video a few weeks ago, and I'd had it on sort of in the background whilst I'd been sewing, so I was aware of kind of the general process of sewing this up, but I got stuck on one particular element, and as soon as I saw what Michelle had to say about this particular section, it was like, of course, it's completely simple. So it was a great video that Michelle did, and I do recommend that if you are thinking about sewing up this pattern, that you watch Michelle's video, because it's brilliant. So thank you, Michelle. The Paddington top has got this beautiful puff sleeve detail with an elastic cuff. It's got a button placket at the back. Now, I've chosen not to do actual working buttons. I've literally just sewn it on because I can get this top on and off without having to undo it, but you can obviously put the buttons in as well. It was also from a time point of view. My video for Sew Frugal 22 went out on the 25th of March, and at that point I hadn't sewn anything, so obviously I've only had a few days to make the items that I've made. In all honesty, I had this one cut out, but I hadn't started sewing it until the 25th of March when this video went out. So I had to get my skates on, so not doing the actual buttons obviously saved me time, but obviously I have added the buttons themselves on. I just haven't done the buttonholes. It's got sort of a lovely dipped hem at the back. The front is slightly higher than the back. I have added 1.5 inches to the length of the pattern because it is designed to become up a little bit cropped, and I'm quite tall, so I didn't want it to be too cropped, and I wouldn't feel comfortable wearing that. So I'm really pleased with how this one came out. I think out of the three things that I've made, this is the one that I'm most pleased with. I think it will go great with a number of things, with some jeans, black jeans, blue jeans. I think it will look great. Like wear it with a skirt, wear it with some smart trousers. I just think it's going to be really versatile, and I definitely want to sew up some more of these in the future. So yeah, really pleased with this particular make, and as I say, something that I would definitely recommend to other people, and will definitely be sewing some up in the future. Now, the next item that I sewed up was again from Peppermint magazine, and that was the pocket skirt. Now, I think I said in my ideas video that I'm not convinced about a midi length on me, and this is a midi length design, and that I said that I thought that I would make it shorter. Now, I made the pattern up pretty much as is to begin with. And I was quite right in thinking that the midi didn't suit me. I have taken some video, or it just sort of a selfie type thing in the mirror as I was sort of making it, so the quality won't be quite as good, but hopefully you'll still be able to see. And yeah, I'm not keen on that particular length for me. I just kind of felt like it was drowning me, possibly because I've made it in a denim fabric, and obviously that's sort of a heavier weight fabric. Possibly if I'd made it in a floatier fabric, it wouldn't have felt so sort of stiff and material heavy, but it didn't work. It didn't work for me at all. So the first thing I did at that point was I cut it off at the sort of knee length. I then did a couple of rows of top stitching. I've also top stitched all the other sort of seams and things, which I was really pleased with. Actually, it's the first time I've ever used sort of top stitching thread, and I used the tip from the lovely Crystal from My Social Thread, who suggested that if you don't have top stitching needles, you could use embroidery machine needles, which have got a slightly bigger hole in the eye of the needle, which I did, because when I went to buy top stitching needles they didn't have them, but they did have the embroidery needles. So thank you, Crystal, that was a great tip. And yeah, the top stitching worked really well, and I've just done it in a sort of matching thread, so it will be very difficult for you to see probably, but I know it's there and I am happy with that detail. However, the pockets on this thing were massive, absolutely massive. Now I don't know whether they would have stood out. I guess they wouldn't have stood out as much if I've done this in a much floatier fabric, but even still, I think even with a floatier fabric they just kind of stick out hugely, and with the denim fabric they look ridiculous. I was just like, what am I going to do with this? There's no way I can wear it as is, because they just stick out so much, and in an area sort of in your hip area, I just, yeah, I didn't like it. I also feel that they come down a bit, they're a bit low. So I thought, well, how am I going to rescue this without having to take the whole thing apart, bearing in mind I'd top stitch everything. So what I've done is I've kind of pleated the pocket front. I guess I've done, I think it's called a box pleat, I don't really know, I've just sort of winged it really, and I've created, as I say, this sort of box pleat detail to bring the pocket in so that it's not so sticky outy. On the whole, I think it's worked okay. Would I make this skirt again? For me, no, I don't think I would. Again, the pattern, the way it's written is lovely. All the instructions are super clear. I love the fact that I can wear it as kind of a high-waisted item. It's really comfortable. You use sort of 1.5 inch elastic, and obviously you make a channel for that. That feels really comfortable to wear. I really, really like that element of it. And I like some of the finishes that I've been able to create on it. But I don't think it's something that I would revisit. I'd like to make a denim skirt again. I would use the 1.5 inch elastic, the general sort of shape without the pocket style of this. I would do again, but no, this particular pattern is not for me, I don't think. I would just like to caveat that by saying that I have seen some gorgeous versions of this skirt on Instagram, and even the, you know, in the pictures on the actual pattern itself, they're lovely. I think they look great. It just wasn't particularly for me. I also managed to squeeze in one last final third make, if you like, and this wasn't one that I'd talked about within my ideas video that I put out on the 25th. When I was sort of trundling through my fabric stash the other day, sort of trying to tidy it up a little bit, I came across a piece of viscose jersey fabric that had got sort of smushed in between sort of two other bits of fabric, and because it's quite a thin viscose jersey, it sort of squished in, and I hadn't noticed it before when I'd done my video previously. And so I got it out and thought to myself, maybe I can sew up one more item reasonably quickly and do a third make. So that's what I've done. I've sewn up this item here, which is in this very soft, quite thin viscose jersey, in this, it's not a cobalt blue, it's a bit lighter than cobalt blue, I don't quite know how to describe it, and I've used the Galaxy Tee pattern from Paper Scissors Cloth, I think is the name of the company. Now I've sewn this top up once before, and that particular version came up massive, like literally massive. I brought it in at the sides, it was still huge, and I use that one as sort of a bedtime t-shirt now, because it was just, even after I tried to sort of rescue it, it was too big. So on the basis of that, I decided to size down 2 sizes, because I thought, well, that one was huge, I'd taken it in at the sides, and it, you know, it was still big, even after I'd taken it in at least sort of 2 inches either side. So I thought, well, I can't go wrong by making it 2 sizes too small. Well, so I thought. So this particular item, maybe it's because I've made it in a viscose jersey, and the other one I made in kind of just a cotton jersey fabric. This one is too small. So my sister, if you're watching and you'd like this particular item, it's yours. Because I could just about squeeze into it, but I wouldn't feel comfortable wearing it. It's a bit too clingy, and yeah, I'm just not particularly, I wouldn't reach for it at all. It's too small. But on the whole, this is a great pattern. I just can't seem to get the sizing right. The instructions are really good. The diagrams are really clear. I don't know what it is about this pattern. I put this particular pattern on my Make 9 this year because I wanted to get this pattern right, because I'd sewn it up and it was too big. Now I've sewn it up and it's too small. So next time I'm going to try, not in a viscose jersey fabric, just in like a cotton lycra. I'm going to give it one more whirl. I think I've got one more in me, I think, before I kind of throw this one to the curb, because I love the puff sleeve detail on this, with going into this sort of cuff band. I think it's really lovely. So next time I think I'll make it in a cotton jersey, lycra jersey type fabric, and I'll go in between the 2 sizes that I did before, and fingers crossed it will be okay. So I just need to find myself a piece of fabric that I'm not precious about and have another whirl in it another time. So that's the story of my 3 makes for Sew Frugal 22. This one I'm really pleased with. The skirt, I think that I will probably try and wear and see how I get on with it. So yeah, so I've got one that's good, one that's sort of and this one, it looks nice but it doesn't really fit, so that's a so never mind, you can't win all the sewing makes, can you? And I haven't really had a sewing fail for a little while, so I guess I was due one, and this scenario perhaps I was due 2. But I think it's good to share our, our fails as well as our wins, because we all have makes that don't go so well, and it's nice to know from other people, isn't it? I know that I feel like that that sometimes they just don't go quite right. So that's all my Sew Frugal 22 makes for this year. The next thing up for me to talk to you about is what I've got planned in terms of sewing for the next few weeks. Now, I'm planning on taking part in another couple of challenges, which is going to keep me busy. Now, the first one is being run by the lovely Adele, who is Sew for Serenity, and Crystal, who is my social thread. Now, they've got a challenge running for April called Selfless Sew April 22. Now, the idea of this is that you sew up things for other people. It doesn't necessarily have to be clothes, it could be accessories, etc., or for your pet. So I am going to decide what I want to make for that. Now, I like sewing for other people. It makes me sort of feel better about sort of spending money on myself in terms of sewing. So if I'm sewing up for other people, I don't feel quite so bad about the money that I spend, because, you know, sewing isn't necessarily a particularly cheap hobby, although I don't spend vast amounts of money on it, but obviously some. So I like to kind of offset that in my own mind by sewing things up for other people for gifts, etc. So I've definitely got a few things that I'm thinking about for that particular challenge, but I need to kind of work through them in my head a little bit more before I sort of put pen to paper and write it down, and then obviously tell you guys about it. So I will come back with another video, I think, on those once I've formulated that plan in my head. Now, there's also another challenge happening on Instagram, which has been run by the Dahlia Society, Kristen from the Dahlia Society, and Cloth Edit, and it's something to do with sewing a blouse, and the title of the challenge has completely gone out my head, so I do apologise. I'm going to put it up along the screen. No, it's gone. It's completely and utterly gone. So the idea of that one is to sew a blouse up in April, and I think that I may well take part in that challenge and sew up another Paddington top, because I love this one. I think you can class that as a blouse. It's got buttons, albeit the buttons are at the back. That's still classed as a blouse, right? Let me know in the comments. I think it's a blouse. If not, then I'll have to come up with a different plan, but I think that would be quite good. Obviously, that is an item for myself. It's not a selfless sew as in the previous challenge that I was just talking about, but it's not like I have to sew absolutely everything for other people in the month of April, but I will be trying to do a bit of a focus on sewing for others. So no concrete plans to tell you about, but definitely ideas that are whirling around in my head that I will need to formulate, and I will let you know about next week. So I think I've waffled on enough for today. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I hope you've enjoyed seeing my reveal of my items, and I hope you'll come back again and join me for another video. So as I say, if you haven't subscribed, please do click that subscribe button. Don't forget to check that notification bell so you get notified of any other videos. So all that's left for me to say is thank you so much for joining me today. Take care. Happy sewing. Bye bye.